everybody, my name is Deja and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my November TBR and I have a tarot readathon announcement. Today I'm going over my November TBR. If you don't know, I do a spinner wheel every month and I also do a TBR jar. So we will definitely be getting to those. But first I want to start off with my tarot readathon announcement. So Noelle and I decided that because everybody loved the tarot readathon so much that we didn't want to just go another year without having it. So we decided in November to host a mini tarot readathon from the 10th of November to the 12th of November. And this one is not going to have teams or anything like it did last time. All the prompts are going to be the same, but we do kind of have a little twist on it if you would like. If not, you can participate in the readathon just by pulling cards and matching prompts to those cards. And you can pull as you go. You can pull all the books that you think that you're going to read in the beginning of the weekend. You could do whatever you would like. And if you want more context, I would recommend checking out my tarot readathon announcement video for June, because that one kind of goes more into like the prompts and stuff like that, but ignore all the team stuff because we're not doing teams or points this time around. But if you would like a little bit of an added challenge, we decided that, so generally if you're doing spreads, the placement of the card matters. So there could be a 3-card spread that has past, present, and future. So past is on the left, present is in the middle, and future is on the right. And so we are doing something similar with our templates where we have a 1-book template, a 2-book template, and a 3-book template where basically each placement has its own separate prompt. So when you pull a card, you have to make it match the card that you pulled, but then also the prompt that is on that placement. For example, I'm just going to go over the 2-card spread. So place number 1 is read a book off your physical TBR, and place number 2 is read a seasonal read. So the first card that you pull will go to spot number 1, and the second card you pull will go to spot number 2. So let's just say the first card that you pull is read a thriller. And so the prompt for space number 1 is to read a book off your physical TBR. So you'd have to find a thriller that's also off your physical TBR. And the prompts that I did are very general, like read a book off your physical TBR, read a seasonal read, and read a graphic novel / manga. So I did pretty easy ones, so in that way they have a wide variety of books that you can choose from. And as I said, if you don't want to participate in doing those, you can completely just pull cards as you go and completely ignore it. And there is also a chance that you could double up on prompts. There is some prompts on there like read a graphic novel, and if you double up, great, amazing, you only have to complete 1 prompt. There also will be some times where you might pull a card that contradicts, like read an ebook and then you get for spot read a graphic novel or a manga. And if that happens, you can completely just re-pull for that card to try and make it so that way it doesn't conflict at all. But that's basically our announcement. We're super excited to have this little mini readathon. The Google Doc with all the information and the prompts will be down below. And there will also be graphics that'll be linked in the Discord, which is also going to be down below. The Discord is so amazing. We loved all the interaction in June and we are hoping to kind of revive it for November. So that's the only readathon I plan on participating in. And I don't know what I'm going to be reading for then because I'm going to pull my cards closer to the readathon. So I will be doing a little readathon vlog for it and y'all will be able to see what I read and what prompts I pull during that. I'm really excited for it and I hope that you guys join us. So I have a very big video that is going to be planned for the end of November, beginning of December, which y'all could probably guess. So I am not going to be doing too much this month. As I said, only this one readathon, and I also am only going to do 5 prompts for my TBR spinner wheel. But before we get into any of that, I want to talk about my book club books. So in the month of November, my book club that I host on Patreon, we are going to be reading Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. I'm super excited to read this one, and we're actually going to be doing kind of a book club crossover. I'm doing it with Hailey, her book club, the Pretty Girl book club, on her Patreon. So if you're on either of our Patreons, we are going to be doing a live show together where we discuss the book, but we will be posting our own respective vlogs on our own Patreons. I absolutely adore The Last Housewife. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's one of my favorite thrillers of all time for sure. And I did really enjoy In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. So that's why this one is on my TBR. I don't really know what it's about, so I thought I would read a little bit of the description to y'all. It just says it's a gothic southern thriller about a killer haunting a small Louisiana town where 2 outcasts, the preacher's daughter and the boy from the wrong side of the tracks, hold the key to uncovering the truth. I am super excited for this one, even though I'm not a big fan of like gothic stories, but that's usually because they're like hauntings or haunted houses, paranormal stuff, which is not my favorite type of horror to read. But this one is a thriller and it's about a killer. So I'm really excited to read this one and I hope that it's going to be really good. Now we are going to get into my TBR jar. This is basically most of the books that I physically own. I know there's a lot and y'all are like, she has a small TBR cart. If you're new here, I am in college. So my house is in the same town that I go to school, so it's easy for me to go back and grab books. But I own over 1,000 books, and I do have a bookshelf tour if you would like to check out all the books that I own. But so I put them in here so then that way I can try and read more of my physical books, because I don't do that. I've actually been pretty good, but I have a lot of books that are like YA fantasy and stuff like that that are not my traditional genres that I read anymore, but I still am interested in them and I want to read them, so this kind of pushes me and motivates me to read them. I have a carryover from a couple months ago right here, and that is Dark Roads by Chevy Stevens. Last month was super crazy in October. It was insane, so I still have not gotten to this one, but I do plan on still reading it. If I don't read this one by the end of the year, I'm going to have to unhaul it, so hopefully that'll motivate me, because I did start this one and I really enjoyed it, and I feel like I started it, so like it kind of counts, but I have not finished it. But last month I did not pull a book, so we are going to pull one this month. So I'm just gonna open her up and reach in there, and I always am not hoping for green because the light green is actually the YA fantasy, but we'll see what we get. Okay, just so you guys know, I'm not cheating. I'm going to pull out this one. Okay, it's a dark green, and I do have a little key on the bottom that tells me what every genre is. Dark green is sci-fi or dystopian. Okay, I'm scared. And if I get a book that's a multiple in a series, I'll read the first one. So I got B3, and this corresponds to a column and a row in a Google spreadsheet because it's easier for me to keep track of it that way. So B3 on the spreadsheet is Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So this takes place in the future, and we follow a star pupil at this academy. I'm not sure what they do at this academy, but he is the star pupil of this academy, and he is really wanting to start a crew of his dreams, but he is kind of stuck with the 5 people that nobody in the academy wants, and they are all kind of just like eh. And so besides him not having a good crew, he also has this girl that he recently rescued who has been cryogenically frozen for 2 centuries, and she is kind of out of her depth and time, but she could be the catalyst of starting a intergalactic war. So this one sounds pretty good. It's a little less than 500 pages, but it is a YA, so it's shorter, so it's a little bit long, but not like extremely long. So I think that this is reasonable for me to get to this month. So last month I had to take a punishment on my spinner wheel because I did not read all of the books in the previous month that I pulled, and my punishment was to read a book with an ugly cover, which was Autumn Crow, which I did end up reading, so that's good. I feel like I don't know what the punishment would be if I didn't take the punishment. Maybe like another punishment if I don't take the punishment. I don't know, or 2 punishments. Let me guys know what you think I should do if I don't complete the punishment. And so then besides the punishment, I had 5 other spins I had to complete. So for recent purchase, I had Shiver, and I have not read this one, but I'm filming this 5 days in advance. So this one I plan on finishing this weekend because I am doing a 48-hour readathon with my patrons, and I'll definitely be able to complete this one because it's a manga. And then for a nonfiction, I had It Came From the Closet, which I did end up finishing. For BIPOC author, I had Lone Woman by Victor Laval, which I did end up finishing. Then for a queer author, I had Transmuted, which I also ended up finishing. And the last prompt was Enemies to Lovers, which is Go Down Hard, which I am almost 60% of the way into and definitely will be finishing up today. So I will call this TBR complete, and I do not have to take a punishment for November, thank God. So I'm just going to get into the spins. I am going to be doing 5 this month because I have that big video. Generally, I want to do like 6 or 7, but when I have like punishments and readathons and big videos planned, it's kind of hard, so I've been doing 5 lately. Spin number 1. We have a book related to nature. So the first prompt was to read a book that is related to nature. And for this one, I really want to go with Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. I really want to read this one. I hate blocking the ambiance, so I'm gonna hold it over here. I really have been wanting to read this one. This one follows a school that is for wayward children, which are children that go through these doors into other worlds, and when they come back, they're kind of not right because these worlds are so like dreamy and amazing, and so it's kind of like traumatic for them to face the shock of the real world. So there's this school that kind of like rehabilitates them, I believe, and I know that every other book in the series takes place in those actual different worlds. The other books take place in the real world in the school. This one is not directly related to nature, I don't think, but you can see this has a lot of foliage and greenery on the cover. So I'm going to count this one for this prompt. Spin number 2. We have a book that takes place in a small town. So the second spin I got takes place in a small town, and for this one I'm actually going to go with Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead, because as I said when I read the synopsis, or that little piece of the synopsis, it does take place in a small town. So I am going to just double up for that one so I don't have to read as many books this month, because as I said I have that big video coming. So yeah. Book number 3. We have a BIPOC author. The next prompt that I had was a book by a BIPOC author, and for this one I want to go with Sorrowland by River Solomon. This one I could actually also count for book related to nature, but I don't double up, and I really want to read this one. This one was gifted to me by Elizabeth from Museum Grack for hosting the Tarot Readathon. She was one of the co-hosts. She's super sweet. You guys should definitely check out her channel. All I know about this one is that I think it's kind of like fantasy horror, and it has to do with fungus. It's a fungal fiction, because during the Tarot Readathon we were talking a lot about fungal fiction, so that's why I was sent this one. But this one has really been on my radar for a while, so I would like to pick it up. Spin number 4. We have a one-word title. Next up, I got a book with a one-word title, and for this one, I'm going to go with Pen Pal by Dathan Arkabich. This one has been on my TBRs for a while. All of 2023, this has been on my TBR, but I was going to read it back in July, August, but Haley said to wait, and so I wanted to read it last month, but I knew that my TBR with all my readathons was just really rough, so I didn't know if I would get to it, but I think November is like the perfect time to read this book. I just get November vibes from this book, and I'm just going to read the synopsis because it's super short. It says, in an attempt to make sense of his own mysterious and unsettling childhood memories, a man begins to reconstruct his past. As the games and adventures of his youth become engulfed by a larger story, he finds that it forms a tapestry of unbelievable horror. As the games and adventures of his youth become engulfed by a larger story, he finds that it forms a tapestry of unbelievable horror that he never could have expected. Each chapter completes a different piece of the puzzle for both you and the narrator, and by the end of it all, you will wish that you could forget what he never knew. Almost everybody that I know has given this 5 stars and absolutely loved it. I do know like 1 or 2 people that thinks it's just meh and it's overrated, but most people I know love this one, so I really want to check it out. And I believe this one was originally like one of those Reddit stories that got published as a book, and honestly this synopsis sounds like it was written by ChatGPT, because ChatGPT loves that word tapestry. But I think this came out before ChatGPT even existed, but I will say ChatGPT loves that word tapestry, okay? And lastly, spin number 5. We have a book with a person on the cover. I'm actually going to veto a book with a person on the cover because none of the books that I want to read have a person on the cover, so we're going to spin again. We have a book by a queer author. And the last prompt that I got is a book by a queer author, and for this one I'm going to go with Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. I had this video planned to do for my Patreon where I read their recommendations, but literally I started reading the first book, read it, footage got lost, and then I was very slumpy, and I think I don't want to jinx myself, but I think I'm out of my slump, knock on wood, okay? But I would really like to do this video for December, so getting one of those books knocked out in November would be really nice. So this one is by a queer author. Sarah Gailey is non-binary, and I love The Echo Wife by this author. I believe that this is about a woman and her mother is like, hey, can you come home because I'm literally like on my deathbed, and they have a very estranged relationship. But in this house, she's kind of being reminded of things because her father was actually a serial killer. So I heard that this one is not very paranormal. It's kind of like one of those things where it seems paranormal, but it ends up not being paranormal. And I know that's kind of a spoiler, but that makes me want to read it because I don't really like paranormal stories. So yeah, this was recommended to me by one of my patrons to read for that video. So I'm glad that I'm able to pick this one up in November. So this is the little TBR that we have crafted, plus Midnight is the Darkest Hour. and Aurora Rising, and then also hopefully I can read Dark Woods by Shelby Stevens this month so I don't have to read it in December. But these are the books that I have. I'm hoping to read a lot more than this. As I said, I'm feeling a little bit out of my slump, but I still have a ton of books on this cart that I would like to get to as well. So we'll see. November is going to be a little busy, but less busy than October, so I'm hoping to have more time to read. So if you made it to the end of this video, leave a little skull emoji down below because this little sweater is like a rib cage of a skeleton. So leave the skull emoji down below, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye everybody!
I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in, yeah. You got the nerve to be on me, faking a life that I had you. If you got my number, don't ask me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus.